Hi guys, welcome back to the History Shelf. This is Peg. I am here with a quick book review for you. Just finished reading Midnight in America, Darkness, Sleep, and Dreams During the Civil War by Jonathan W. White. It's put out by University of North Carolina Press. I had requested this title because I'm a Civil War fanatic and I love different takes on the era, and this was just so unique and dynamic. I just knew I wanted to read this, so I had the opportunity to read and review it. I will post my written review below in the description box at my blog, also called The History Shelf. But essentially, I just wanted to give you just a quick recap because I told you in my last video that I had finished it up, and just to give you some final thoughts on this. If you are into the Civil War at all, I highly recommend this book because it really it takes an interesting angle into the more intimate lives of the people involved during this era. It begins mostly looking at the aspect of rest and sleep and how it would affect soldiers, which I find fascinating just from my own military history interests. And White, the author, he kind of takes an interesting angle into how back in the Civil War they really didn't understand um, such as the death penalty for falling asleep at your post. Well, these men were so exhausted from continuous marches or being on post for 4 hours on, 2 hours off, sometimes for weeks in a row, that the body, the physiological toll it took, they didn't really understand from a medical standpoint. That men could not stay awake because they were just utterly spent and exhausted. It had nothing to do with character or anything like that. It was just the physical toll. So I really liked this angle that the author took on that, and to show also that President Abraham Lincoln, um, for every case that was brought to his desk about, if he could, would he commute a death sentence for someone who fell asleep at their post, in almost every single case, I think in every single one he says in this book, they were pardoned. Lincoln could not bring himself to have a soldier executed for falling asleep at his post. Sure, discipline was important and you had to set an example, but especially during the Wilderness and Spotsylvania campaign, that was a brutal. The Overland Campaign of 1864 was a brutally exhausting campaign, even more so than any of the other ones that were known for long marches, continuous fighting. The Overland Campaign beat them all, and men were falling asleep, falling out of saddles, tripping, walking while they were asleep, and it took a severe toll. So the book really kind of starts off with just an actual study of sleep patterns, which I thought was pretty intriguing, and then we move into the life of dreams, the dreams and of soldiers, of civilians, family members at home, civilians, politicians, all the way up to President Lincoln's famous dreams. So also he has a whole chapter on the dreams of African Americans during this time, whether they were freedmen and women or still enslaved, and he kind of takes a look at um, the recurring themes in their dreams from the material that has been left behind in letters, diaries. And again, I just cannot say enough about the primary source material. I've read a lot about the Civil War, but having access to all these different letters, often very very intimate letters between the husbands and wives, and just discussing how much they miss each other, their physical affection, their children, uh, and also the sadness of dreams where their fears come out, as far as men would fear that their wives might be going after another man, fears of being abandoned, adultery. Um, of course, dreams of just reliving the battlefield is a nightmare. Prisoners of war, dreaming of escaping, dreaming that they were recaptured. And all of this is just brought to life in the letters and memoirs, and just the just personal documentation from the people involved. And it's a wonderful resource if you're looking to connect with the people of that time and place. It really makes these people come to life and what they experienced. And I think one of the most interesting contributions that Jonathan White makes here is, and I'm not sure if this has been um, proven elsewhere, but he basically says, you know, those two famous dreams of Abraham Lincoln. The first with the dream of he was in a boat approaching a indistinct and uh, another shore. He couldn't see the shore, and then so we know that dream, right? If you're a Lincoln fanatic. The second dream that he supposedly had was that he dreamt he was walking downstairs at the White House. He heard crying and sobbing coming from another room. And he dreamt that he walked into a room and people were standing around a casket that was open. And he approached one of the guards watching over the body and said, well, who died? And the answer was the president. So this was supposed to have happened a couple of days before he was assassinated. So actually, in this book, White says that the source for that story was someone who said he overheard Lincoln share this anecdote or this dream story with someone, but it was proven that he wasn't where he said he was to have overheard it, and plus the man was known to be, you know, kind of a an opportunist and looking for opportunities to make himself a little bit more, you know, uh, in the press, put his name in the press and things like that. So it wasn't really it's probably not a story that we can really rely on. But the other dream has been verified, that he shared it with his cabinet members about being in a boat and floating towards a dark and indistinct shore. So that one was true. But anyway, this book, I just really enjoyed it. Midnight in America, Darkness, Sleep, and Dreams During the Civil War. If you are a Civil War fan, I highly recommend you check it out. And it seems appropriate. This is the last day of the University Press Week that they're celebrating. And if you're on Twitter and if you follow that, and if you're a University Press fan, as I am, I love University Press books. They are just so important. As a history and nonfiction person, can't say enough. I just, they're my bread and butter of what I read. So I thought I'd end on this note, just kind of praising this book, praising the university presses that we have out there, and encouraging you all to kind of take a look at, some catalogs and see what's out there, that what interests you, because these people do fascinating research that will be a bedrock for future studies. So let's really just support our university presses. And anyway, yeah. So that's my review for Midnight in America by Jonathan W. White. Hope you guys are having a great night, and I'll be back soon. Bye.